So I've always used other methods of watching movies and series that I wanted to get into, but at the end of 2024, I had a lot of series that I actually wanted to watch upon release. So I decided to buy Netflix for a couple of months. And my critic brain is jumping off the walls. And it's been a long time since I rambled about media that I watched, so why not do a speed mini review of everything I watched within the last few months of Netflix. A couple disclaimers before I get right into it. I pretty much almost exclusively watch animated things since I'm an artist and I love the art form. Like 99% of the things that I talk about will be animated. The things I watched range from super old to super new, but they are things that I have watched for the first time while having Netflix. There are lots of shows currently on Netflix that I have already watched prior, but also since Netflix has such a huge library, I definitely did not get to everything I wanted to watch. All I really wanted to do was just yap about the things that I did watch, so let's go ahead and get into it, starting with our movies. Migration. I give Migration an 8 out of 10. It was surprisingly really silly and endearing. I love the family dynamic and the traveling that they have. Every character was charming in their own way, which is a bit surprising to me. I really liked the humor and thought that everything about it was sweet and simple. I'm always a sucker for family dynamics in media, and I think this one was super adorable. And everything was so fine until I heard Aquafina. I think the climax could have been a little bit better, but I still liked it. I think it wasn't really threatening as it wanted to be, with the parents being kidnapped by the duck farmer and the conflicts between the father and the son. I think their confliction wasn't built up enough to have an impact. It was kind of sudden. But sometimes a movie doesn't have to be a super big and impactful thing to be enjoyable. Storks. I give Storks a 7 out of 10. I didn't have much expectations going into it, but it wasn't too bad. The main dual dynamic of Junior and Tulip works really well. The bickering can be quite entertaining. Both characters having the same goal of returning the lost baby, but for different reasons. There was a story B with the family of the baby that I didn't care for, where the brother wished for a sibling, but I suppose it was needed, boring, but needed for the story to progress. And I know it's a cartoon, but when the birds had teeth, it really frightened me. There wasn't much to it, but it had a really great ending scene. Over the Moon. I give Over the Moon a 9 out of 10. I did not expect it to be a musical. I knew nothing about it. I absolutely loved the animation. The music could be a little bit stronger, but it was still enjoyable. I really loved the parallels of the grief between Fei Fei and Chang'e in regards to their lost loved ones, and I completely enjoyed how they help each other through their grieving process. And of course, I talked before about how I was a really big fan of family dynamics, especially in regards to siblings. And I'm a very big fan of showcasing sibling dynamics that aren't blood related. This movie was really enjoyable and very fun, and I absolutely loved it. Kubo and the Two Strings. I rank Kubo and the Two Strings also a 9 out of 10. I can't believe I haven't watched it until recently, and I've always wanted to like it because it's made by Leica Studios, the same studios that made Coraline. Like, how can you not love it? And it's stop motion. It has such wonderful animation and story, and it was completely enjoyable the whole entire time. I kid you not, it might have been obvious, but I didn't realize until way later in the movie that Monkey and Beetle were Kubo's parents. Oh my gosh, that just made it even more tragic in the end. The only reason why it's at a 10 out of 10 because I wasn't really a big fan of the ending. I did not really like how Kubo's parents ended up being dead while his grandpa gets to live a reformed life. Granted, at the end of the movie he didn't remember who he was before, but it's just kind of bittersweet knowing that Kubo's entire family is gone except for his grandpa, who didn't remember the entire history that played out throughout the movie. But nonetheless, it was truly an amazing experience. I loved Kubo. Vivo. I give Vivo a 7 out of 10. It had a really strong storyline. I really did enjoy the movie, and I didn't expect it to take that direction. I went into Vivo only knowing the song M-I-A-M-I running out of time because of TikTok. I did lose the plot a little bit with the shenanigans that came, but it's unavoidable with the kid target audience. And I know because of Lin-Manuel Miranda, it's a musical, but sometimes it's a little too much musical for me, especially when it came to the girls' song. It was not my favorite, but I did enjoy Vivo for what it was. Shark Tale. I give Shark Tale a 7 out of 10. Despite it being a meme, I've never watched it until now. No. The only exposures that I had were through memes like Oscar the Millionaire and The Shrimp Story. I know people like to label it as like a good, bad movie, and although I enjoyed it, I actually think it's pretty solid. Like, it had a pretty consistent storyline, and its climax was pretty good. The conflicts were built up, and yeah, I think I don't have too much problems with the movie, except when Angie gave Oscar her family pearl. Girl, what are you doing? I think it's pretty solid, not super amazing, definitely an enjoyable background watch, but yeah. That's Shark Tale. Orion and the Dark. I give Orion and the Dark a whopping 1 out of 10. I'm debating whether or not to make a separate video about Orion in the Dark because of how much I despised it. I feel like there are some reviews out there who have already touched upon its flaws. I actually haven't been able to watch any reviews that I've seen on YouTube yet. It has such a messy storyline, it has a lot of wasted potential, and it has the most whack writing I have ever seen in an animated movie before. I've always wondered why I didn't see any promo for this movie despite it being under DreamWorks and having a relatively really good art style. And now I see the reason why. I think any amount of marketing put on towards this movie would have been completely wasted. I'm sorry this is hater behavior, but oh my gosh. Alright, now we're gonna move on to the series that I've watched. Arcane Season 2. Arcane is the reason why I bought Netflix. I wanted to watch the release of the episodes of Season 2 as soon as they came out. I give Arcane Season 2 an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. It was such a good wait. I'm not a League person, so I did not know a lot of the lore prior, so a lot of the things were lost in translation, especially with the stuff like the Black Rose and like some reoccurring characters and little Easter eggs. I probably missed a lot of that, but the animation, the cinematic shots, the music, the soundtrack, the character designs, art is alive and well. Everything was such a huge masterpiece. I think there were some writing choices that I'm not a big fan of, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. I think I enjoyed season 1 a lot better. Not to say that season 2 wasn't good, it's still amazing. Hence why I give it an 8 out of 10. I think there were still a lot of things that might not have been completely solved and some directions that I personally didn't like. But it's not a huge deal breaker for me, it's just small little nitpicks, but it was a completely amazing experience. I would recommend watching Arcane, even if you have no knowledge of League like I do. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. I give Scott Pilgrim Takes Off an 8 out of 10. I didn't know anything about Scott Pilgrim stuff prior to watching. I've only seen fan art and cosplay from friends and also some audios from the original movie, and I actually didn't expect Scott to be not even present for half of the time, but I think the art style is completely adorable, the series is entertaining, but if I'm being honest, I don't think it really stuck with me a lot. I think Scott Pilgrim is a franchise that I've never gotten really into, hence why it didn't really stick with me, but I did really enjoy the action, the animation, the art style. It was a really fun watch, even though I didn't remember a lot of it. Blue Eye Samurai. I give Blue Eye Samurai a 10 out of 10. Oh my goodness. I was blown away. Keep in mind that it is super adult themed. Be cautious. I would not recommend this series to anybody who is under the age of 18. Blue Eye Samurai has constantly had me at the edge of my seat and my eyes cannot be pulled away from the screen. I completely love a flawed protagonist who doesn't always make the morally good decisions. Mizu is such a beautifully written and powerful protagonist. And seeing how Mizu has to disguise herself as a man to really explore through Japan during its Edo period versus Princess Akemi who has to traverse through society with her restrictions of being a woman and important princess are such amazing storytelling parallels. You're kind of able to get a glance through what characters can or can't do based off how they grew up in society, what their role is, and also how others see them. But what I really like about Blue Eye Samurai is that despite the backgrounds which each character has come from, all of them have such a strong fighting spirit. And just like Mizu, all of them are as well beautifully written. And I cannot wait for season 2. DanDaDan. I give DanDaDan a 9 out of 10. I didn't initially use Netflix to watch it, but I used to continue watching it. And I think DanDaDan is super refreshing. I really love Momo and Okaden, and I love the character dynamics with one another. Every episode has had me smiling and enjoying it. I think the voice acting is superb. I think everything about it is really lively and so high energy. Usually I read the manga after I finish watching an anime that I like, but I really like the anime a lot that I don't want to read it, since if I read the manga, I won't watch the anime anymore. And of course, I can't talk about DanDaDan without talking about episode 7. Oh my gosh, I was watching with Nini, and after we both watched it, we were completely in tears. I really like all the characters too. I have such a soft spot for Ira and Gigi, but they're all chef's kiss. I love it. Ranma Half 2024. I give Ranma a 10 out of 10, and it's nostalgia bias. I'm sorry. I've never read the manga, but I grew up with the original anime series, and I can definitely tell the differences between this anime and the OG anime, and I actually really appreciate how it seems to follow the manga a lot better. It's kind of like a different story being told, like the original story that was intended, and I do like it a lot. I know a lot of people have their bias towards the OG anime. I think knowing that the 2024 anime follows the manga more directly, it kind of gives me a new vision, and like it's like a whole new different Ranma to see, because there are definitely new scenes that I have never seen in the OG anime, and it's such a surprise to see new content, even though it's not new, it's old. But I can't wait to see more. It sucks so much much that there's only 12 episodes for season 1. I can't wait to see more, and I also can't wait to see some of my favorite characters animated in the future. The Dragon Prince season 7. I give The Dragon Prince season 7 an 8 out of 10. Not going to lie, I've honestly been so lost with the lore of The Dragon Prince, probably because with every single season, I kind of forget what happens in the previous season, but I feel like this season has been pretty strong, and that's mostly because it's the end of the era of Erebos. I enjoy The Dragon Prince even though there are some writing issues here and there. So much happens every time there's a new season, I forget. But this season was on a whole nother level. There's lots of lore, there's lots of betrayal, there's lots of conflict and tension. There's a lot of character arcs that were wrapped up. There's a lot of story that was concluded. It was a lot more enjoyable than the previous seasons and a lot more darker compared to the previous seasons. I've seen a lot of people talk about it on Twitter, how they're still shocked, and I am still shocked that it's still rated like G or PG. Like, there was some really graphic and violent scenes. I'm very surprised that it made it through the final cut, but I'm pleasantly surprised, so I can't wait to see what's in store for the future of The Dragon Prince. Bee and Puppycat. I give Bee and Puppycat an 8 out of 10. It was a little bit hard for me to get into it initially because I actually wasn't a big fan of how the characters delivered their lines, but it was really cute and good background noise for when I was drawing, so I stuck with it because I really wanted to like it, and I'm glad I pushed through because I ended up liking it. It's such a cute and wholesome series. I'm in love with the character designs, the art style, the colors, the fashion. Oh my gosh, all of Bee's different outfits whenever they went to their temp jobs. I also absolutely love Puppycat. I always love a little guy. It was so funny because I was like, wow, I love his voice. He sounds so much like a Vocaloid. Only to realize, yeah, his voice was a Vocaloid. It's super unique. I did see that there is a webtoon with more stories, so hopefully there will be another season of Bee and Puppycat, and I will be ready to watch it whenever it drops. Jentry Chau versus the Underworld. I give Jentry an 8 out of 10. It was also kind of hard for me to get into since I didn't feel like episode 1 was super strong, but I was happy to be proven wrong. I know that Jentry Chau versus the Underworld had a really hard-working team behind it. It's such a cute actiony series that was really reminiscent of old familiar series that I enjoyed, like American Dragon Jake Long. The story flowed pretty well, and I really liked how it kind of painted the viewer finding out about the truth behind the Underworld, Gentry's parents, her family, and her powers, right alongside Jentry, because we were just as clueless as she was. I really liked all of the side characters. They were all super charming. I'm honestly not a big fan of love triangle and messy romance tropes, but I really did like how Jentry and the other female character, Stella, stayed friends. But on the other love triangle situation, oh my god, Kit was one of my favorites. Don't worry guys, I love Michael. I have a lot of love for him. He's super cute and super charming. I just wasn't a fan of how they handled Kit's character as well as the conflicts being resolved in that way. I really wish that the series was released weekly because I barely see anybody talking about it. And if it was released weekly, I think it would have gained a lot of discussion online. And it would be really nice to be able to see fans talking with one another and making theories with one another about what would happen. And I really do hope that it gets a lot of traction to potentially make a season 2. And if Jentry Chau was just a 1-season series, I think it ended off on a good note. If there's a second season, then I am really excited to see what the creators have in store for her. Bojack Horseman. I rank Bojack Horseman a 10 out of 10. It is quite bingeable and very intriguing. All of the characters are so well written. The dynamics feel so complicated in a good way. Every single one of the main 5 characters goes through a completely different character arc and different conflicts that I feel are very unique and super special to each person that all intersect within the world of Hollywood. Throughout all of the seasons of Bojack Horseman, I think it's really insane to see how much these characters grow, how much they don't grow. Honestly, I didn't really know what Bojack Horseman was about. I've only seen it through media online, memes, again, a couple of really famous audios off of TikTok. You guys, I understand the hype. It is a really good show. I highly recommend watching it if you're an adult. The series does touch through really sensitive topics since it is an adult cartoon. Just throwing it out there, my favorite characters are Todd and Princess Carolyn and Hollyhock. All 3 of them are very dear to me. Squid Game Season 2. Well, look at that. One non-animated series that made it onto the list. I personally believe that Squid Game Season 1 was a 10 out of 10, and Season 2, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Episode 1 was super strong. You can see the impact of how the events in Season 1 has affected Gi-hun in his life present day, and the guilt that he carried with him by being the sole survivor. I think Season 2 has such a strong cast and such a strong start, and it's very intriguing to see how they continue the story with a second round. I do do like how season 2 is more lighthearted. There's a lot of character dynamics going on, but due to the short amount of episodes, I feel like there was too many characters and not enough time to flesh all of them out, even though I enjoyed every single one of them. I do appreciate and like how they had new games, both story-wise and audience-wise. Though I really enjoyed season 2, I did find the detective parts boring a little bit, but like in my head I was like, no, oh my gosh, I'm just like the VIPs where I think I'm waiting for the games, I'm waiting to see what's going on. Like yeah, I do have mixed feelings about the end of season 2. I understand a lot of people are calling it like a cliffhanger, but I don't really think it's a cliffhanger. It's more like a conclusion to a part 1 of a 2-part type of deal. I know it's going to be called Squid Game season 3 once it comes out, but I feel like it's kind of like a 2-parter since it's not really a concluding story, I feel, for season 2. But nonetheless, I'm a Gi-hun defender for life. I think all of his actions are quite understandable. A lot of people think that he should have just gone on that plane, but I think Gi-hun Survivor's Guilt would not have caused him to board that plane. I cannot wait to see how the series is going to wrap up its conclusion. Bonus points for DanDaDan/Top. As an OG VIP, the season was so good for me. Also, extra bonus points for the season 2 fandom being a lot funnier. But yeah, that pretty much sums up everything that I've watched within the last couple months of Netflix. Thank you so much to everybody who stayed long enough to listen to me ramble about quite literally everything. If you want me to deep dive into a particular one, please let me know. And if you have any ideas of what I should also watch in the future, also let me know. Thank you for watching, and until next time.